Hi, it's Ronnie the Dungeon Daddy, and I'm going to report on our playtest of the Commander and Guardian for Pathfinder 2e. But yes, we have two classes for the Battlecry book that comes out probably in 2025, the Commander and Guardian. I'm Ronald the Rules Lawyer. I'm a lawyer who runs tabletop role-playing games. My preferred system is Pathfinder 2nd Edition. For 7 years, I ran an after-school middle school class for role-playing games. And support my Patreon if you haven't already. It allows me to continue this channel. I don't make money as an attorney. For more info on why, look at the video whose thumbnail is on the screen. Supporting my Patreon gives you ad-free early access to most of my videos and exclusive content. Like any good researcher, I should cite my sources for this video where I will express a number of facts and opinions. We did a playtest that consisted of 6 7th level player characters, which consisted of 1 commander, 2 guardians, one designed to be in the front line, the other behind, and those 2 guardians took none of the same options. 1 champion who could be a comparison for a tank next to the guardians, a bard who is a spellcaster for this group, who is a leader class who could be compared to the commander, and also a fighter who is widely regarded as the most straightforward and possibly the most powerful martial class, to test whether some commander abilities were too powerful, because the commander is able to give the fighter bonus actions. I did not allow any archetypes in order to keep the classes pure for testing purposes. Our adventure was an epic tale in which our characters saw how overpowered wrestling was and needed to nerf it to restore balance to the universe. To do that, they had to summon the spirit of wrestling. But to do that, they needed to break into Paizo's game balance division to retrieve the Paizorb to do the ritual. Once they defeated the spirit of wrestling, they could then cast the Luchador mask into Mount Remaster. I recruited the playtesters from my Patreon, and I want to thank them. I don't think it could have gone any better. There is a lot of Pathfinder 2e experience among them. They all did what I told them and did what they could to make the party as optimal as possible, given my parameters. And I consulted them extensively and asked a lot of follow-up questions to prepare for this video. In fact, I recommend everyone see the post discussion, just over an hour long, of me and all of the playtesters. I'll leave a link in the video description. I also highly recommend the video by my Pathfinder colleague, Swing Whipper, who did a video that was a negative critique of the Guardian draft. So full disclosure, he was also a co-GM for this event and helped me design the encounters, and he designed all the maps in Dungeon Draft. However, I think all the playtesters would agree with what I'm about to say, and they're free to comment below, that they got their negative impressions of the Guardian independently from him. Before I talk about the Guardian, I will give our feedback on the Commander. Everyone generally agreed that it was a solid class that held its own, and given the tactics that we chose for optimization purposes, maybe the power was a bit high. But it felt like a commander. The player praised the design, that they felt like they were commanding the battlefield. That player was a veteran of D&D 4th edition and had played the Warlord in that class, and it reminded them of that. They thought it just needed a tuning and balancing pass, and I think we can be confident that that will happen during this playtest process. I did bring up in the post discussion the issue brought up in the community that there might be tensions at some tables for there to be a commander in the group, someone literally giving orders to other people. First, the other people don't have to follow the orders, but it's a free action in most cases, why not take it? But it was clear that it's generally a table-dependent issue. For longtime friends, it would be less of an issue. For people who don't know each other very well, it could be an issue. In our playtest, our commander player did not know the other players, and basically explained why they were doing what they were doing, and kind of brought it to the committee. And everyone generally agreed with what they proposed. Now, that's partially tied to the fact that the commander player thought their tactics choices were kind of straightforward, which is a whole other topic and is a your mileage may vary situation. People pointed out that there is less synergy with the commander and non-striking classes, so casters who cast cantrips or kineticists who have their own elemental blast attack. The commander's tactics tended to award only steps, strides, and strikes, and other actions relative to weapons or frontline fighting like raising a shield. And I think that's why our party ended up being such a melee-heavy party. Even the bard was a melee fighter. It was designed around the commander. And we talked afterward, why not have the commander also trigger other kinds of actions like standing, or athletic skill actions like grapple? It seems like that's an unexplored design space. And apparently a designer was on my Discord and commented that the scope of the playtest was deliberately narrower in order to serve their playtest goals. So it seems like that already will be addressed by the designers. Warfare lore is key to the commander. It is given for free and auto advances as you level up. When you reach 3rd level, you can use it to roll your initiative, and also you can start using it to recall knowledge about most creatures regardless of type. And I had some issues with this and other language here. It was too loosey-goosey. Why does it say most creatures? Who is not included if it says regardless of type? Also, it simultaneously gives a list of 3 things you can know with this recall knowledge, but it leaves it up to the GM to allow additional questions appropriate to the situation. So it's entirely for GM fiat. Characters are most likely going to want to know combat abilities in combat. And allowing questions appropriate to a situation is generally something you are encouraged to do as a GM anyway in this system. So why does it need to be spelled out? And I was reminded that the Thaumaturge class has esoteric lore, which already can recall knowledge about haunts, curses, and creatures of any type. We already have a precedent for a auto-advancing lore skill that can identify abilities and answer questions about all creatures. So that's that. Also, one of the questions can be whether one of their saving throws is particularly weak. If I have a fortitude save that's stronger than my reflex and will saving throws, and my reflex and will saving throws are the same, then I could literally answer this, taken rules as written, no, and say nothing more. That was clearly not the intention, and so it should probably say something different. There were also issues with the banner class feature, which is needed for pretty much everything the commander does. Some of the abilities have the banner trait, which, as written, seems to have the intention that you need to have a hand committed to waving the banner, or have the banner attached to a weapon that you are wielding. The intention clearly was to make some more powerful abilities require a free hand. Kind of like the intention with the Thaumaturge, who is pretty much confined to one-handed weapons, which are less powerful than two-handed weapons generally, because one hand needs to be free for their implements and esoterica. However, the commander can bypass this by affixing the banner to a two-handed weapon, bypassing the intended limitation entirely. We also had an issue where our commander planted the banner in the ground using the feat that lets them do that, and they were attacked with Dragon Breath with the banner in the middle. We're given no guidance or rules on how to adjudicate damage to that banner. If the banner ever gets destroyed, it's catastrophic. Everyone in the party in the area gets frightened 1, and the commander cannot use their class abilities anymore. It's kind of like a wizard losing a spellbook. And because of that, I went by vibes and said that that banner was invulnerable to damage. I also saw a Reddit thread that asked whether a banner is necessary for this class, who had a different concept of the class that just gave commands and orders, who did not need something visual, which I thought was a fair point to make. I don't know if the complications of waving this flag add much to the design. The fiddliness that comes with it should be worth it. And lastly, the commander's main ability of using tactics. We thought some of the tactics needed tuning. Not surprising during a playtest. Since I asked them to optimize, our commander player, probably to no one's surprise, took 2 specific ones. One was Strike Hard. This is the 2-action activity that prompts an ally to make a strike as a reaction. And remember, the commander has a class feature called Drilled Reactions that allows them once per round to give one of their allies a extra reaction that has to be used for a tactic. So our fighter, who might be making a attack off of their turn anyway with Reactive Strike, formerly called Attack of Opportunity, might make yet another attack. All of them are at full accuracy, by the way. We generally thought that this tactic is a must-pick for a party that has a strong melee martial class, which is the vast majority of parties probably. There's also hidden advantages to this as compared to something like Reactive Strike. You basically can make this happen whenever you want it to happen. It's not dependent on a trigger for one, but also it's possible to manipulate the initiative order so that when you use Strike Hard, it's at the most advantageous moment. So we had this moment during the fight where the fighter walked over in a flanking position opposite the commander. And this was an opportunity for the commander to delay their initiative so that the fighter can come in, attack from flanking, and then make a commander-prompted extra attack during the commander's turn immediately afterward. Delaying seems to be part of the meta of using the strike hard tactic for maximum effectiveness. Also, it being a reaction attack for that ally means that it has little opportunity cost. It costs you 2 actions. However, for that ally whose offensive strikes may be more valuable than yours, almost certainly they are, it does not contribute to, nor is it affected by, the multiple attack penalty. And it's probably not competing for another reaction for them because you can give them a bonus reaction. I don't have any specific suggestions here on how to tone down the power of this tactic. I just want to raise it. There's a lot of things that could be tried. The other tactic that our commander chose was pincer attack, which looks very powerful on its face. It's 1 action to give all squad mates within the aura of your banner a free step action. Then every enemy who is adjacent to one of your squad mates who used this tactic becomes off guard to the people who participated in the tactic. This seemed strong. Compare this to Courageous Anthem by the Bard, which gives everyone a +1 status bonus to their attack and damage rolls. Making everybody off guard is effectively a +2 to attack. Now the counter is that there are other ways to make enemies off guard, and this doesn't stack with those. And those other ways are quite easy, like flanking a foe. However, flanking a foe usually requires one, if not both, of those party members flanking the foe to spend a move action to get into proper position. And this tactic already is giving one free move action a step that might be creating that flanking anyway. In the first fight, we had the situation where the fighter was up here, and the free step that they got from the tactic allowed them to move into range of the Earth Elemental. This presented the possibility, and no one thought of this at the time, for this champion here to slide to the east to provide flanking to the fighter. But that free movement was crucial. The fighter was then able to, without having to move to get into position first, attack the Earth Elemental. She knocked it out with her strike, and then moved on to the next target, and with her third action, knocked out a second foe with another strike. So there already was a benefit from the free step. Another concern was invalidating investment in skills that other characters use, such as deception, to make a character off guard, or athletics. Those have a chance of failure. This tactic simply says yes. Also, in our experience, we found that tracking who became off guard and whom they were off guard to was fiddly. Our commander often paired this with their strike hard tactic on usually the fighter, who therefore was excluded from the benefit of pincer attack. It sounds like that's something not hard to forget. However, when assessing the overall lay of the land and the possibilities, like on a chessboard, remembering who is off guard and who they're not off guard to adds to the complexity. I talked about this afterward with a commander player. What if this cost 2 actions? Would it still be competitive? And they thought yes. But they also said that they enjoyed more the free movement part of this tactic and thought maybe it should just be a single action to give these free steps. Also, one minor piece of feedback, it wasn't clear whether 2 PCs could swap places with this tactic. We didn't know the answer to that. The other tactic our commander chose, who at level 7 can prepare 3 tactics at once, was Piranha Assault, and these were the 3 tactics they stuck with throughout the 3 fights. This costs an action to designate a creature whose resistances are less effective against your squad mates. This had the effect of negating one of the core features of incorporeal monsters, ghosts, wraiths, and so forth, that have resistance to all damage, with a couple of exceptions. And we had a ghost in our adventure, the Spirit of Wrestling. This tactic reduces the resistance by the commander's level, so the ghost resistance went down from 10 to 3. Now, I'm not sure whether this is overpowered or not. I'm just pointing it out that it was very strong in this fight, and particularly against incorporeal creatures. It was very strong, but very situational, and that kind of feeds into the next point. They said that some tactics are clearly more generally useful than others, like strike hard. while others are more niche, like Piranha Assault. And in the first 6 levels for the commander, you're only able to prepare 2 tactics. And by level 7, that increases to still a small number of 3. The commander player hoped to have more occasion to be changing their tactics, both between encounters and from round to round. They said that they actually would be fine if the tactics were a little less powerful, but there was more occasion to change between tactics. They thought that would lead to more interesting play. Related to that is the fact that you're kind of constrained in choosing new tactics over the course of your commander career. You choose 5 at level 1, and you can gain a new tactic at 7th level, another at 15th level, and another at 19th level. And at each of those levels, that's the same level, you unlock a new tier of tactics that are, at least in theory, more powerful than the lower level ones. So you're very likely going to have the same level 1 tactics over the course of your adventuring career. It was brought up in our post discussion by Swing Ripper, what if tactics were like kineticist impulses? They were just another feat, and the class can get bonus feats at level 1 that have to be impulses or have to be tactics. Now, I'm not sure whether that's a net positive. There are some non-tactics feats for the commander that are pretty cool in this playtest, and tactics would be competing with those. And also, I don't know if players think that the level of complexity of playing a commander is already sufficient or too much, and so therefore don't want a bigger hand of cards, so to speak. I don't have a strong opinion either way. I'm just conveying what our group thought, particularly from 2 players who are of the more tactical mindset who like tactical games. I also want to report that we had issues with the plant banner feat. That is the feat that lets you plant your banner in the ground, gives it a slightly bigger radius, and it gives temporary hit points to allies immediately and also whenever they start their turn there. The player just thought this was not worth it after experiencing it. The temporary hit points was only 4 temporary hit points at level 7, and it also meant not being able to use banner actions, which require foisting your banner. This took away the strike hard tactic, and also a feat that they had called Wave the Flag that lowered the frightened condition for everybody, which was key against the dragon. It was raised in the post discussion, why not simplify this and make it like a stance, where you raise it higher and give the benefits, and also you get to avoid the issue of how to adjudicate Dragon Breath against that unattended banner. All right, so without further ado, let's talk about the Guardian class. Make sure to like this video and to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. If you haven't yet, support my Patreon. It gives you ad-free early access to most of my videos and exclusive content. Also join my Discord community. We are over 5,000 strong and I participate there a lot. We talk Pathfinder 2e and other gaming. Also, if you want to play Pathfinder 2e, we have a drop-in, drop-out organized play system called Endless Tale Tavern. So that's it. I've been Ronald, the Rules Lawyer. I'll see you next time.